Hello students, welcome you all back to this course of Industrial Engineering and Management. In this video, we'll discuss about the organization structure, departmentization, line and stop structure, span of management and matrix structure. The other categories, first of our unit, functions of management, McGregor's theory and Masters theory have been already discussed in the previous videos. So before we dive into this topic, I just wanted to put you the essential ratings and the recommended ratings which are necessary to have an overview of the contents which we are going to see in this video. First, we have already seen in the previous video what are the various functions of management is. So in that, organizing is one of the key important functions of management. What organizing usually does, it arranges and structures the work which are already done in the industry or an organization to accomplish, and they are streamlined towards the goals of the organization. They are basically called as a formal arrangement of jobs within the organization, and it gives you an overall visual representation of the various activities which are carried within the organization. Why it is necessary to create organizing, or why it is necessary for a manager to have the capability of organizing the activities. The initial thing is it divides the works into specific jobs. You can relate it more specifically to the process how you are preparing for your examinations. Before you start, you look up to what the syllabus is about. When there are 5 units, you divide it into specific jobs, more specifically about whichever unit you wanted to study first, and you then divide it more specifically into the key topics. So that is how an organizing works. You first divide the jobs, the work into specific jobs, and then assign the jobs and responsibilities to individual people. And you have to ensure that the coordination is proper within the organization across the different segments of organization. So once the relationships is organized, it is ideal for a manager to create a formal line of authority. Why the word formal comes here is there may be a different informal kind of setup within the organization. Now, say for example, we have quality circles, which is called as an informal group of informal group of people who just meet up to discuss about the problems which they are usually facing. But as a manager and as a management perspective, you need to create a formal line of authority through which the person will be getting accountable for their work. So once the line of authority is created, then you have to deploy the resources which are available within the organization to the respective departments and the respective persons. Now we'll see about how a basic organization structure looks like. The image here is a very simple diagram which will give you an idea about a visual representation of a basic organization structure in an organization. There will be a manager under whom there will be subordinates. We usually call them to be an employee, so that they will be the one who will be reporting to the manager in person. So the people who work in the organization, how they will be grouped. They can be grouped depending upon the nature of work. They can be grouped depending upon their kind of expertise, or they can be grouped depending upon the product or the project in which they are working in. So there are different categorization and different departmentization involved here. We will see about in the next slide. The various forms of organization structure. The first one is your traditional organization structure, which we also call them to be a functional mode. They are the ones which are necessary, and they will be the one which will be driving the entire organization. Example, manufacturing segment, the sales segment and the finance segment. They are imperative to be a part of the organization. The second category of organization structure is your project, or also called as the divisional structure, where you will categorize the people as well as the resources within the organization depending upon the product, the customer, the geographic, it's also called as the territory or the process. The third category of organization structure is your hybrid structure. We also call them to be the matrix structure, where there is a dual hierarchy in which both the function as well as the divisions will have an equal control over. Now we'll see about the functional organization structure. As the diagram indicates, you can see that there is a CEO under whom you have got 3 different vice presidents. Each of them will be representing their own kind of function. The first one is your development, a vice president of development, a vice president of operation individually, and then a vice president of sales. So each of them will have their own team, which will be headed by their team leaders, and under the team leaders there will be a set of people or the subordinates who will be working towards achieving the organization goal. So where does this traditional organization chart fits in? It is predominantly found in small and medium enterprises, where there are not much of a flexibility in terms of the locations. They are more specific towards one particular zone, or there is a relatively stable environment which is prevailing over a number of years. So that is where you could see this traditional organization chart fits in. Whereas, as we have seen post-COVID, most of the organizations are looking for a dual kind of working environment. One is a work from home environment, other is a traditional structure. So, in that kind of scenarios, this organization chart will not be able to uh, have the highest functionality. The second category is your divisional organization structure, where you have your individual divisions which are categorized: a development department, a marketing department, individually, a sales, and who will be having their own kind of managers, and their supporting staff will be working under it. Now, under this category, there are few things which are needed to be centralized. The first thing has to be the money flow, because that is when you can have the control over the money flow within the organization. The other inputs like your machine, material, they can be decentralized and they can be used for having a higher strategic, so that the business units are more performing well, and they'll be able to have their own general managers who will be responsible for their own resources. It is not ideal that the accounts, the finance department has to be centralized, but when it is done, it will give you a control over the entire cash flow within the organization. The third cat of organization structure is your matrix structure. It is a combination of both the kinds, where it's also called as a hybrid structure, where you have your functional as well as the divisional structures getting into place. So what is the main purpose of having a decentralization in a matrix structure? Because when you have a decentralization, there will be a speed, decision making will be very speed, and you can have a proper diagnosis of the problem, and that can be rectified at a very shorter time compared to a centralized decision making, where you need to report to your seniors. The seniors will then take it to the managers, and then the managers will take it to the management. So the decision making will be a little bit of a time consuming, whereas in a decentralized structure, the decision making will be very rapid. And second category is more specifically, the department will have their own kind of group as usual, but there will be a dual reporting which will happen, because you need to report to the managers of the product as well as to the functional structures. A good example can be in a university where the professor have to look up for the lecture delivery, and he has to report both to the subject head as well as to the department. So that is a good example of how you look up the matrix organization structure. Now we'll see a very basic example. This matrix organization structure is created for an ice cream manufacturing company who are planning to launch two different categories of ice cream in addition to the existing project. So a manager will be having his own kind of departmentization. A production manager separately, a finance manager will be taking care of the accounts, a marketing manager and a sales manager will look up to all the sales activities and the after sales services, the development manager and the research manager. So he will have his own kind of team members under this, and there will be an existing project which is already happening. So the company is now looking to add two more different categories of ice creams under that. So you need to create two more different set of group. So every project has to have its own kind of team members. Maybe you can hire some people from the same team, because they will also have the expertise, they also have the experience of working in a similar kind of situation. But whichever be the number of team, the number of teams can be depending upon how the resources are available, or what is the lead time which is required for delivering the project. But all these teams has to be centrally controlled by the general manager, and his own will be accountable to the manager. Now we'll discuss about the departmentation. Basically, what departmentation refers to, it is grouping of activities into departments. A good example can be whenever the students work on a multidisciplinary project. A good example is where you work on your hackathons. Maybe they will be asking you to develop a product. So a mechanical student might be well versed in the design aspect, but he also needs a computer science engineer or IT engineer or IT student who needs to bring his own kind of program codings and other things into the setup. So that will be a kind of departmentalization where the different activities are grouped together. Everyone or individual who is specialized in those activities, he will be taking care of those responsible things, and there will be a single person who will have his own kind of maintenance and activities control over that. These are the basic departmentalization categories. One is by the function, process, product, and territory. We'll see one by one in detail. First one is departmentalization by function, where you could see based upon the functions in which they are operating. A production department will take care of the manufacturing of the product, the entire process, all those things which will happen under this production department. The second category is your purchase department, where the procurement of raw materials, the suppliers, contract, all those things will be carried over. The finance department will take care of the account section, and they will take care of all the money flow within this product and the organization. The fourth department is your marketing, where they will do all the sales and after sales services. So depending upon their functions which are performing and their relatability to the organization goals, they will be categorized. So that is called as departmentalization by function. The second category is departmentalization by process. It is probably called them to be a subpart of your production department, because only under this production department you can categorize them based on the process. Now we have taken an example of a cloth production department where there are different activities carried over. Say for example, spinning, weaving, dyeing, and packing could be the different activities which are carried over. So under this production department, there will be a manager who will be responsible for this entire production. So he'll be called as the general manager of production. So he will have his own kind of process which are segmented. So there will be a set of people who will be working under spinning. So he needs to take care of this process individually, weaving individually, dyeing individually. So these are similar activities which are related to the process, and they are combined to form this particular department called as production department. The next categorization is departmentalization by product. It is entirely purely based upon the nature of product, and they do not look up to the kind of process which is involved. A good example can be every one of us knew how Samsung entered into the market. They were entered into the market only through their product of mobile phones. Now you could see so much of diversified products under the brand of Samsung. You have an air condition, you have a television, you have laptops, so much of other options are there. So that is how you categorize them. That is called a departmentalization by product, where there will be a product, and for each of the product you will have its own production department, the engineering department, the research department. So if there are three different products from a particular company, you will have three different segmentation under each of those products. So that is your departmentalization by product. The next one is your departmentalization by location. It is purely based upon the territorial and the geographic location of where the process is happening. A good example is all your TCS, CTS. We usually see that whenever someone's designation is seen as Vice President of India, which means that they'll be taking care of the operations within this particular locality of India. Because most of the IT companies, they will have their own setup or their own operations which are spread across the globe. So a person who is responsible for this particular location and in the geographic location of India will be called as the Vice President of India. So you categorize them purely based on locations. Another good example can be your the Indian Railways. Basically, we have railways categorized as north, south, east, and west. So under south, you further classify them depending upon their geographic location. So currently, under southern railways, you have railways of Tamil Nadu, railways of Kerala, Andhra, everything comes under that. And other subcategories could be again subcategorization under the Tamil Nadu sector, where you have railway zone. We call them to be zones. So the zone is Madurai, you have zone of Coimbatore, and you have zone of Chennai. So this purely based upon the location and the territorial features of the product. The next categorization is departmentalization by customer. The ideal aim is to ensure that you are giving or you are producing a product which are more focused towards the reach of the customer. We have been seeing about different products. A company which is manufacturing the same product in India and which is sold to Indian customers, and which is manufacturing a similar kind of product in other country, and they are sold to different customers. So depending upon the requirements over there, they will be having their own kind of product features. So you have to categorize them depending upon the requirement. And a good example can be the pharmaceutical companies, where there are different customers. The customers in pharmaceutical includes your doctors, your hospitals. Obviously, we have few of the multi-specialty hospitals which are included. So if you want to have a more specialized kind of treatment, that is where you focus towards the customer. A customer who is looking for a brain-related issues, he need to look up to a neurosurgeon. So that is how you departmentalize. Departmentalization is done based upon the customer's perspective. So once departmentalization is done, then we'll go for the line and staff structure. So what is line and staff structure? It gives you an idea about who your actual superior is and how far this information flow or this entire organization is working upon. The diagram here indicates how a line relationship and staff relationships works. The one in dotted lines indicates your staff relationship, which is there is a staff relationship within the engineering as well as the human resource department. Because you could see human resource department is the basic department which will give the human resource to all of the other departments over here. So a line authority will be exercising the authority directly over the subordinates, and the staff authority will help the line authority in attaining the objectives of the organization. Now, before we conclude this video for this particular topic, I wanted to put up an idea about what the span of control is about. There are a number of employees who are effectively and efficiently involved in an organization. So the span of control has to be it can be from the top to bottom approach, or it can be from bottom to top approach. So how does the span of control or the width of span is determined? It is purely based upon the skills and the abilities of the manager. When he has widespread knowledge about all the activities and the geographic location, then he may be having a wider span of control. But whenever a manager who is more specific to a product oriented or a process oriented, then will be having a very narrow oriented span of control. But it can be, as I said, it can be vice versa. It can be from top to bottom approach, where the information flow is coming from the top management to the bottom management, or it can be from bottom to top, where the information is passed down from the subordinates to the superiors, and the superiors to the managers, and then the managers to the top management. That is how your span of control works. So with this video, we'll be finishing a few of the topics in Unit 1. Thank you, and we'll be discussing about the remaining topics